Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video Core Pick live stream for today, Monday, June 12th. It's going to be a 7-game main slate in total. First of all, welcome in. If you are joining me for the very first time, welcome in. This kind of structure that I use for this video, for this live stream, going over a recap of yesterday's picks, which is not the case today since it's Monday. I haven't had a video since Friday, so we will be skipping that part. Going over the weather report for the games in play today. So just taking a look at it, the weather doesn't look like anything too bad at this point in time. And then going over to FanDuel, talking about the core picks that I do have: one pitcher, 4 hitters, primarily based off of past history and recent performances. So definitely a combination of those, or if there's anything else that stands out in general. And then last but not least, going over the YouTube community tab and talking about the bottom half of my cheat sheet, going over my top GPP teams to stack for today's slate overall. But without further ado, since there is no recap, since it's Monday, I'm going straight into the weather report. The only real true game that looks like it has any chance of weather at all today is going to be the Colorado Rockies and the Boston Red Sox game. That game is in Boston. 14% chance of precipitation. Doesn't look like anything major that will affect the slate. So not going to be too concerned about that. If you want to play teams from either Boston or Colorado, you could still definitely do that. Players from those two teams, excuse me. So not really many concerns weather-wise. If anything does change throughout the day, we'll leave it down in the comments. But without further ado, we'll go over to FanDuel and talk about the core picks that I do have for today overall. So I'm going to start up at the pitcher position. I think there's 5 pitchers, in my personal opinion, that I will be getting some type of leverage or some type of ownership to today. And James Paxton's the guy that does come in as my core pitcher, but the other 4 pitchers, in this case, out of 5 total, that I'll be looking at will be Zach Eflin, $10,800, Logan Webb, $10,600, Jesus Luzardo at $9,500, and then Bryce Miller at $9,000. So those will be the 4 other ones that I would mention or look at playing today. But James Paxton is the guy that I ultimately went with. Really a guy that hasn't pitched for 2 years, and then all of a sudden kind of been pitching well. With my luck, he'll probably go out and get hurt. Don't want to put that on him or anything like that, but I had some bad luck with James Paxton in the past, especially from a fantasy baseball perspective. But going against Colorado today, $9,800 offers some pretty good upside there, averaging just over 34 fantasy points per game. Obviously, only pitched in so many games so far, but coming off a very, very strong 52-point performance. And when you look at the starts that he's had this year, he's only had 1 start that's been under 36 runs. So definitely like him quite a bit overall today. Does offer some pretty good upside. Not a lot of history there versus the Colorado Rockies hitters in the past, but a little bit hit or miss history there. It's Randall Grichuk and Charlie Blackmon that mainly hit him well in the past, but those are 2 aging guys as well. Grichuk's, been a little bit hit or miss this year coming off the injury at the beginning of the year. Blackmon was on that pretty good long hitting streak, but he's not really hitting for power at this point in time. We got Steven over here in the chat saying that he has I love a Red Sox or a Red stack. So you're all red today. Definitely do like both those teams. Both those 2 didn't end up in my top stacks for today. Only 4 fit in the cheat sheet, but I have about like 7 or 8 up on the Patreon that do have listed there. They were both listed there as well. So as we move down, for my core hitters that we do have for today, I got Salvador Perez, the catcher for the Kansas City Royals today, going against Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has not been a very good pitcher so far this year, and really hasn't lived up to that prospect pedigree that he had once upon a time. Feels like I've said this a million times now at this point in time, but on the season for Salvador Perez, you'll see the $3,000 salary, averaging over 10 fantasy points per game, 273 average, 13 home runs, 36 RBI. So a pretty successful season. The Royals really were off to a slow start to start the year. Maybe a little bit of a sneaky team to snack today, but Salvador Perez is 1 for 3 with 1 home run in his career versus Luke Weaver. Looking at some of these recent games, been a little bit more hit or miss as of late, but did hit a home run yesterday. Some pretty decent upside that is there with Salvador Perez. Definitely can display it on any given slate. $3,000, pretty respectable price tag for him overall today. Then we're going to move down to second base. We're going to go with Bryson Stott. He is going against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tommy Henry on the mound today. Bryson Stott is $2,900. I think I mentioned that already before, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game. When we're looking at what he's done so far on the season in total, 292 average, 5 home runs, 23 RBI, stealing a couple bases as well. So definitely a guy that has had a productive productive second season after kind of a down rookie year, not living quite up to expectations. Guy that had kind of struggled against lefties in the past, but against Tommy Henry in his career, he is 1-for-2 with a home run that did come earlier this season. So, like the upside that he does present, looking at some of these recent games for Bryson Stott, 2 back-to-back multi-hit games. He's got a hit in, let's see, 4 out of his last 5 games. There's a couple offers in there, but offers some pretty good upside. A guy that does have a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, so could offer some different perspective from there as well. As we keep moving down, we're going to Tero Estrada. You can play him at second base. You can play him at shortstop as well. $3,400. Ultimately playing him at shortstop today, going against the St. Louis Cardinals. It's Matthew Liberatore on the mound. Liberatore had that one good start against the Brewers to start off the season, and since then not been very good whatsoever. So he's definitely a pitcher that we like stacking against. The Giants are kind of a team that does hit left-handed pitching pretty well, and Estrada is one of those few bats. Probably gaining a lot of ownership today just because he had the big game yesterday, but you see $3,400 salary average and over 12 fantasy points per game, 297 average, 9 home runs, 24 RBIs. He doesn't have any history in the past against Matthew Liberatore, but like I said, Giants team in general and Estrada both hit left-handed pitching pretty well. And if you look at the season in totality, he's always hit either leadoff or second against left-handed pitching. So should at least have, 4 at-bats in this game at the very least. And when you look at what he's done recently, like I said, he had that 2 home run game yesterday. So probably going to draw a little bit more ownership just because he had the big game yesterday. But he's been hitting the ball pretty well. Dealt with like a little bit of wrist injury there for a while. So that kind of knocked him down. But pretty solid season for him nonetheless. Then as we keep moving down, we're going to go with Bryce Harper at $3,600, averaging almost 11 fantasy points per game since he's been back. Going against Tommy Henry on the mound again today. Another lefty on lefty matchup, which is a little bit interesting for the core pick, but do like the Phillies stack just a little bit in general today. 2-for-4 versus Tommy Henry in his career. And, Bryce Harper, since he's been back, that 298 average, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs. Pretty solid stats since he's been back, though. And you see, in general, he's done pretty well. So don't really have too many concerns there. Obviously, you could have the big blow up game on Bryce Harper on any given slate as well. $3,600, pretty respectable price tag for him as well. But with that being said, if you were to go with these 5 players, you have $12,300 remaining, just under $3,100 per player. So a good amount of money left over, whether you want to pay up for a couple other guys, pay down at a couple different positions, or kind of mix and match a little bit from there, make a little bit more balanced build. Obviously, when we're talking the core picks, highlighting guys that do have decent history or guys that I feel like are worth highlighting on today. Obviously, if you want to mix and match and just play a Phillies and like a Giants stack in addition to James Paxton, you can do that. Kick Salvador Perez off and then maybe build like a mini Royal stack or a one of Salvador Perez in a different lineup as well. But with that being said, that's kind of what I do have in terms of the core picks. We'll get moved over to the YouTube community tab and talk about the bottom half of the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet is 100% free. It is up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. It's up on the YouTube community tab. It's also up on Patreon with some more detailed or in-depth notes of the slate overall. If you're interested in that, small monthly donation over there ends up being, just over 25 or just under 25 cents per day, Monday through Friday. You get some additional notes, hitter versus pitcher matchups from past history, kind of whether I would play pitcher, like whether they're in play, a little bit of a risky play, or kind of an avoid on any given slate as well. But in terms of the top stacks that I do have for today, San Francisco Giants, talked a little bit about them already going against Matthew Liberatore. Not any history here at this point in time, but the Giants are typically a team that does have left-handed pitching pretty well, whether it is a Tero Estrada. Make sure you kind of note some of these guys that are in the lineup for the Giants today. Make sure you get that starting lineup. Wilmer Flores is another guy that typically it's left-handed pitching pretty well. First base, third base eligible, $2,500. Austin Slater, typically it's leadoff against left-handed pitching, $2,600. Dealt with some injuries this year, but is back at this point in time. So could be another option there. Very interesting stack. Maybe one that draws a little bit of ownership, but probably not too much overall. Then I do have the Texas Rangers going against Tyler Anderson. Anderson's not been that great so far this season. Rangers have decent history versus them, a little bit limited on that side, but do like the upside that they do present. Rangers have had pretty strong bats to start the season. And then the Tampa Bay Rays going against James Kaprielian. Kaprielian's ERA is over 7 at this point in time. Rays hit him pretty good earlier this season. Not a lot of history there in the past, but Wander Franco hit a home run versus him in that game. Brandon Lowe did, but he is on the IL at this point in time. And then Harold Ramirez had a home run versus him as well. Randy Arozarena had a decent game there too. So a couple names to mention for the Rays, kind of mix and match and some guys there. And then last but not least, the Phillies are a team that I do like stacking against Tommy Henry today. Not that much history versus them, but 2 starts. So there is guys that have done pretty well versus him in the past, mainly Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, and then Kyle Schwarber did hit a home run versus him as well. So definitely do like some of the upside that the Phillies team presents. It'll be interesting to see where the ownerships fall for these stacks as we're going throughout the day. But like I mentioned over on Patreon, I do have about like 7 or 8 different teams that are stackable for today's slate overall. So if you're interested in that, definitely be sure to check that out as well. But with that being said, that's really what I have at this point in time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you found this a little bit informative. If you have any specific MLB DFS questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Got to scratch my nose here real quick. Do apologize for that, but I will be listing any weather updates, starting lineups down in the comments below throughout the day. So definitely be sure you're checking up as we do get closer to lock. Nice thing about baseball is we do get a lot of those starting lineups out, prior to game time, a couple hours. So should have a good idea of who's starting and who's not by the time we get to lock. Could be a little bit of value that does pop out throughout the day. But like I said, that Giants lineup is going to be one that we're definitely keeping an eye out on for. If anything changes with the core picks, we'll leave a pinned comment down there as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, would ask that you do subscribe if you do enjoy the content that I'm putting out, found it informative just in general. If you have any more specific questions, like I said, always feel free to reach out, whether it's down in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. Definitely more than willing to help you guys out. And then at the same time, definitely helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, helping you with your DFS. Right now is mainly MLB DFS as well as USFL DFS. USFL DFS video drops on Friday. Have snap count rates over there on the Patreon as well. Go over some of that in that video. Believe I'm the only person still doing that. So if that's something you're interested in or looking to get into, definitely be sure to check out that video as well. But with that being said, make sure you have the notifications turned on, whether you're a new or returning subscriber. Definitely so you don't miss out on any time that I do post up a live stream, pre-recorded video, or anything else like that. Cheat sheet going up, any other type of post, every good stuff like that. But with that being said, that's really all that I have at this point in time. Do truly appreciate everyone that took the time out of their day to tune in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely does mean a lot to me. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight. And before I get out of here, see that Joe mentioned a comment here. He said, nice work, Craig. Do appreciate you checking it out once again, Joe. Like I said, if anybody has any additional questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments. But with that being said, that's all that I do have for this video, for this live stream for today. Definitely do appreciate everyone checking it out.